Good morning. Welcome to Time in His Word. Slept in this morning. I can't deliver till like 10 o'clock tonight till 4 a.m. in the morning. So I've kind of got to goof off today. I don't like driving in the daytime, so I'm going to end up having to start around 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon. It just, I ain't looking forward to it. I like nighttime driving. I like starting at midnight, but I don't care to drive during the daytime, but it is what it is. So anyway, where I stayed at last night, I've stayed here before. There used to be a truck stop here and they tore the building down and they built a new one across the street, and then where the old truck stop was, they tore that building down and they made the whole parking lot into parking. And then across the street's another truck stop with some pretty good sized parking lot. So it's a pretty good sized area north of Knoxville. But anyway, I've really never noticed. I noticed four-wheelers and side-by-sides, that kind of stuff, running in and around here, but never really noticed. But last night, boy, there was a slew of them. And then this morning, there's even more, and people's trailering them in. There's a couple big motels here. And I asked the local guy, I said, what's up with all these side-by-sides and that? He said, oh, there's a bunch of great riding in and around here. And he said people come from all over. He said it's just really grown over the last few years. And he said he lived just down the road about an hour or so, and he's been tempted to bring his up here and go riding because he's heard so much about it, and got me to thinking. As I looked at the side-by-sides and that, you know, they had their coolers strapped on to where they wouldn't fall off, and they were going in and out of the truck stop buying their beverages for the day and putting them in, you know, in ice and that. And I noticed one guy had a Milwaukee toolbox on the back of his with them littler. They've come out with a deal now where you can get littler ones and they all snap together. And he looked like he might have been the mechanic of their group that when they have trouble with their side-by-side, he's the one that goes to and fixes that. But anyway, they are prepared for this weekend of riding. You know, their machines, I looked at them, they don't have the factory tires and rims. They got aftermarket tires and rims, bigger tires, you know. They're prepared to go riding and have a good time. And they've put a lot of thought into what they're going to do this weekend, where they're going to stay, and all that stuff, just like you or I do when we go on vacation to go anywhere. We do a lot of pre-planning to make sure our time is enjoyable. So this is Friday, tomorrow's Saturday, and then there's Sunday. How many of us are going to prepare ourselves to go to church on Sunday? Maybe lift the preacher up in a prayer or two for the message he's going to bring, and pray that God gives him wisdom and knowledge to bring a good message, one that's laid on his heart that he can share with us. Now, sometimes people don't like the preacher's message because they say it's speaking at them. Well, that's the idea of it. It's to make us feel convicted, to help us understand where our shortcomings are and what we need to do to fix that. And so if I hear a message and I feel like he's just really walked all over my feet, I don't get mad at him. He's the messenger. What I get aggravated is at myself for getting to that point, and then, you know, I try and figure out where I've gotten off course. But you know, and then so my next question, and more important question, is, you know, we prepare ourselves for a vacation, we pre-plan. Some of us, leading up to Sunday, we start lifting the preacher up in prayer, which we should be doing all the time, but focusing more and getting ready for worship on Sunday. And my big question to you this morning is, have you prepared or are you preparing where you're going to spend eternity? I know I've run into a number of people, I've got plenty of time. You know, they're young. Well, just a month or two ago, 3 teenagers in my community lost their lives on a back road in a car accident. They were under 18 years old. So we never know when, quote unquote, our time is going to be up. But in the meantime, we can do something about where we're going to spend eternity. And just because you become a Christian doesn't mean you can't have just as good as time as a non-believer. You know, you can still do everything that they do. It just, you know, you've prepared where you're going to spend eternity. You give up your Sunday mornings to go to church and worship Him. But at first you feel like you're giving up something, but as time goes on, you look forward to that time of worship and study to strengthen your walk in Christ. In John, the 3rd chapter, verse 17 and 18, it says this, "For God did not send the Son into the world to judge the world, but that the world might be saved through Him. He who believes in Him is not judged. He who does not believe has been judged already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God." Scripture tells us, and I just read one, that Jesus is not trying to judge us and condemn us. He's wanting us to come and follow Him and worship Him, but He gives us that choice. And I know I use that word choice quite a bit, but it's true. We get to choose. So if you decide and you choose you don't want to be a Christian and follow Him, that's your choice. But we also know, and Scripture tells us, there's a heaven and there's a hell. And it describes both. And one way of looking at it, so you think maybe there might not be a God. Okay, that's your choice. So you're either 50% right or 50% wrong, because what if there happens to turn out, when you do pass, that you find out there is a God, and you lived life like a heathen, and you get thrown into hell? But what if you go ahead and you follow Christ and you live the lifestyle that's laid out in Scripture as best you can, and you find out there is a God? Now you're spending time in heaven. It's a roll of the dice, and it's your role. You can do with whatever you want to do. You can, like I said, you can choose not to follow Him, and you can choose to follow Him. I choose to follow Him because of what I read in Scripture and miracles I've seen happen in my family members and lives. I believe there is a God, and I believe there is a heaven, and I believe there is a hell. And I personally choose to follow Christ and live as best I can, humanly possible, to what the Scripture says that a Christian should do, so that on Judgment Day, I spend eternity in heaven. I'm not going to take that chance and roll that dice that this is all just a force, this Bible, and there's nothing to it. I'm not going to take that chance, because Scripture describes hell as a fiery pit of anguish. I don't want that. That's enough of a deterrent for me. But the choice is yours, and it's always yours, and God's not going to force Himself on you. But you decide today. You decide whether you want to spend life in heaven, or you want to spend eternity in hell. It's your choice. Because the first part of that 17 said, "For God did not send the Son into the world to judge the world, but that the world might be saved through Him."